What's up, everyone? Today we're asking a huge question, maybe the biggest question in the world right now. Who could actually beat America in a war? I mean, we see it in movies, we hear about it in the news, but could it really happen? The US has the biggest military budget on the planet by a lot. We're talking aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, and technology that seems like it's straight out of a science fiction movie. It seems impossible, right? But is it? We're going to dive deep into this today. I've spent the last week researching every possible scenario with my team, looking at military numbers, economic power, and secret strategies. We're going to look at the most powerful countries and alliances and see what would happen if they went head-to-head with the United States. Let's break down the top contenders and see if anyone stands a chance. This is going to be absolutely insane, and the answer might surprise you. Before we get into this epic global showdown, I need you to do me a huge favor. If you like crazy what-if scenarios and want to see more content like this, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. It helps us make bigger and better videos for you guys, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's get started. Please like and subscribe for more. Alright, first up, the scenario everyone talks about, Russia and China, the two biggest rivals teaming up against the United States. On paper, this looks terrifying. We're talking about combining the second and third most powerful militaries in the world. Their combined number of soldiers, tanks, and ships would be absolutely massive, easily outnumbering the US in pure manpower. China has the largest active army on Earth, and Russia has a gigantic arsenal of tanks and nuclear weapons. Imagine all of that moving as one giant force. It's a mind-blowing concept. If they were to launch a coordinated attack, the sheer scale would be unlike anything the world has ever seen. We're talking about a two-front war on a global scale. China could put immense pressure in the Pacific, threatening US bases in Japan and South Korea, while Russia could challenge US influence in Europe and the Arctic. They could try to overwhelm American forces with sheer numbers, throwing wave after wave of troops and equipment into the fight. It's a strategy of brute force, and initially, it would be incredibly shocking and could cause massive problems for the US military. But here's the crazy part. Even with all that power, they would face huge problems. First, logistics. How do you get millions of soldiers from China and Russia to actually fight America? The US is protected by two massive oceans. Their navies, while big, are nowhere near as powerful or experienced as the US Navy, which has 11 aircraft carriers. To even get to America, they'd have to fight through the most powerful naval force in history. Then there's technology. The US has a massive technological lead in things like stealth aircraft, satellite communications, and cyber warfare. America could see their every move from space and hit them before they even knew what was happening. Okay, let's switch it up. What if it wasn't rivals, but allies? What if the entire European Union, all 27 countries, decided to combine their military forces and take on their old friend, the United States? This is another giant contender. We're talking about powerful nations like France, Germany, Italy, and Spain all working together. France has its own aircraft carrier and nuclear weapons. Germany has an incredibly advanced industrial base capable of producing some of the best tanks and vehicles in the world. The EU's combined economy is also on par with the US. The collective military strength of the EU is no joke. If you add up all their soldiers, jets, and ships, the numbers are seriously impressive. They have advanced technology, well-trained soldiers, and a history of military power. In a defensive war on their own continent, they would be an unbreakable fortress. The sheer economic power they could wield would also be a massive weapon, capable of putting immense pressure on the US. They could potentially pool their resources to create a military force that, on paper, could rival America in size and spending. It would be a battle of titans. But here's the giant roadblock: they can't work together. The EU is a collection of 27 different countries with 27 different armies, 27 different sets of equipment, and 27 different political leaders who would all have to agree on every single decision. Imagine trying to get 27 people to agree on what to order for pizza. Now imagine it's for a war. There is no unified command structure like the US has with the Pentagon. Who would be in charge? A French general? A German admiral? It would be a logistical and political nightmare. Their equipment isn't standardized, so a German tank might not be able to use French ammunition. This lack of unity would be their downfall. This is the ultimate showdown. Forget just two countries or one continent. What if we took almost every other major power on Earth, China, Russia, the entire EU, India, Brazil, Japan, and formed a global coalition to fight the United States? This is the only scenario where, numerically, America is completely and utterly overwhelmed. The sheer number of soldiers, tanks, jets, and ships would be astronomical. It would be like the entire planet versus one country. The US would be surrounded, with enemies on every single border and across every ocean. This global alliance could attack America from every conceivable direction. They could launch economic attacks that would cripple the US dollar, cyber attacks that would shut down the power grid, and a military assault that would stretch US forces to their absolute breaking point. US bases around the world would be the first to fall, completely surrounded and cut off from supplies. The US Navy, for all its power, couldn't be everywhere at once. It would be a desperate fight for survival, a real-life David versus Goliath, except in this case, Goliath is 100 Goliaths. But even here, in this unbelievable, almost impossible scenario, America's victory isn't guaranteed, but neither is its defeat. Why? Geography. America is a continental fortress protected by two giant moats, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Launching a successful land invasion of the United States is considered by military experts to be the hardest task in modern warfare. The invaders would have to cross thousands of miles of hostile ocean, fighting the US Navy and Air Force every step of the way. And even if they landed, they'd have to fight a population of over 330 million people, many of whom own guns. It would be a brutal, bloody war of attrition that the world has never seen. So far, we've talked about tanks and jets, but what if the most effective way to beat America isn't with bullets, but with money? This is where things get really interesting. America's power isn't just its military, it's the US dollar. The dollar is the world's reserve currency, meaning almost all international trade is done in dollars. This gives the US an incredible amount of power. They can print money, impose sanctions, and basically control the global financial system. But what if the world decided to stop using the dollar? Imagine if a coalition of countries like China, Russia, and others created a new currency backed by gold or a basket of resources and convinced the world to switch to it. The value of the US dollar would plummet overnight. The US government's ability to fund its massive military would disappear. The economy would go into a catastrophic tailspin. People's savings would become worthless. This would cause chaos and instability inside the country, potentially leading to a collapse from within, all without a single shot being fired. It's a silent, invisible war. This is a much more realistic threat than a full-scale invasion. Countries are already taking small steps to move away from the dollar. It's a slow process, but it's happening. However, pulling it off would be incredibly difficult and risky for everyone involved. The global economy is so intertwined with the US that crashing the dollar would cause a worldwide depression, hurting the attackers just as much as the US. It's like trying to sink one cabin on a cruise ship. You'll probably end up sinking the whole boat. So while it's a powerful weapon, it's also a mutually assured destruction scenario. But for the economy, we've looked at these insane team-ups and wild scenarios, but now let's get back to the core question with a simple, direct answer. Can any single country on Earth, China, Russia, anyone realistically defeat America in a conventional all-out war? The answer is an emphatic absolute no. It is not possible, not even close. Let's just look at the raw numbers for a second. The United States spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. That is an insane level of financial commitment that no other nation can match. This spending translates into overwhelming technological and logistical superiority. America has the most advanced air force in the world, with stealth bombers and fighters that can strike anywhere on the planet without being detected. Its navy, centered around 11 supercarriers, controls the world's oceans. No other country has a single ship that can compare to a Nimitz or Ford-class carrier. The US also has a global network of military bases, allowing it to project power anywhere, anytime. A single country trying to fight this would be like a high school football team trying to take on the entire NFL at once. Beyond the hardware, the US military has decades of experience in complex, large-scale operations all over the world. Its soldiers are among the best trained and best equipped. Any attacker would have to face this incredible force, and they'd have to do it by crossing an entire ocean first. The logistical challenge of invading the continental United States is so immense that most military experts consider it a practical impossibility. So, one-on-one, no single country stands a chance. It's simply not a fair fight. The scale of American power is just too vast for any one nation to overcome. So, after all that, what's the final verdict? We've looked at every angle, from a massive Russia-China alliance to the entire EU, and even a global coalition. It's clear that no single country can take on the US. Even the most powerful alliances would face massive, maybe even impossible challenges with logistics, technology, and coordination. The United States' combination of geographic isolation, overwhelming technological advantage, and unprecedented military spending makes it an incredibly difficult target for a conventional war. So, in the end, it would take an unprecedented global alliance to even challenge America, and even then, it's far from guaranteed. The more likely threat, as we saw, might not come from an army, but from the global financial system. But for now, in a straight-up fight, America remains at the top. The cost of such a war, for any side, would be catastrophic, changing the world forever. It's a conflict that everyone, especially the people in charge, should be trying to avoid at all costs. What do you guys think? Did we miss a scenario? Is there a secret strategy that could work? Let us know in the comments who you think could take on the US, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. We read all the comments, and your ideas might even inspire our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.